Hey, it's a whole lot of Kalamata. Hope you're having a great day. I'm going to be kicking off Genesis chapter 6 and 7 with the MacArthur ESV Bible. Starting in verse 1. When man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. So the sons of God are specifically, at least according to the commentary, angels, and identified elsewhere almost exclusively as angels, such as in Job chapter 1, verse 6, chapter 2, verse 1, chapter 38, verse 7. This produced an unnatural union that violated the God ordained order of human marriage and procreation. Picking it back up in verse 3. Then the Lord said, My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh, his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. So the flood is about to kick off here, coming up in chapter 7. But very interesting that it says the Nephilim, this union of human flesh and spiritual angels, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. So even in the understanding of what the flood is, destruction and annihilation of mankind, and all the creatures on it, not complete and utter destruction, but the Nephilim, very apparently, because of the availability for angels to navigate to the earth and still create this union, this offspring. So that's why it's saying, and also afterward. Starting with the verse over again for verse 4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, and the men of renown. At least in the commentary for Nephilim, it's saying the word is from a root meaning to fall, indicating that they were strong men who fell to others in the sense of overpowering them. The only other use of this term is in Numbers chapter 13, verse 33. They were already in the earth when the mighty men and men of renown were born, is what the commentary is saying. The fallen ones are not the offspring from the union of the angels and human daughters. So, kind of weird that the commentary calls that out. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, truth be told. There is a apocryphal book called the Book of Enoch that gives a great deal of perspective, and I understand the Council of Trent, Council of Nicaea removed that book. The Church of Ethiopia, however, still keeps it in. So there are elements out there that I think further enhance the understanding and the circumstances of what's going on at that period of time. But a lot of people do reject it and say, no, there's inconsistencies, there's this and there's that. I am not a biblical scholar enough, nor studious enough to understand all the different arguments and points of articulation that people are hinging upon this being correct or it being a falsehood. So I'll allow you to do that. Obviously, tread forward with your own sense of caution, and it's not meant to violate your belief. I'm going to actually read 2, 3 verses of Jasher later that gives further enhanced context of what's going on. And to me, it just attributes to God's mighty power, God's capability. So it doesn't take away. And that's one of the things that I hear from a lot of those people is, well, we don't need the other books. Okay. I'll leave that for their channel and for them to have that kind of boohoo party. I'm just going to add the context in for those that actually want to learn. Going to the next verse here, chapter 6, verse 5. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. That heart posture I was talking about in previous videos. Verse 6. And the Lord regretted that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So the Lord said, I will blot out man whom I have created from the face of the land, man and animals and creeping things and birds of the heavens, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Commentary is just saying that God's promised total destruction when his patience ran out, referring to he's going to blot man out. Noah and the flood. Verse 9, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God. The commentary specifically says the order is one of increasing spiritual quality before God. Righteous is to live by God's standards, his righteous standards specifically. Blameless sets him apart by a comparison with those of his day, and that he walked with God puts him in a class with Enoch. So very interesting as far as a call out goes for how they wrote that for the verbiage that the Bible is using. Verse 10, and Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, I am determined to make an end of all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. It makes me wonder some of the repetition when it's specifically talking about violence and corrupt. It makes me wonder if those were the exact Aramaic words used at this time, or if we just didn't have a good enough translation for that, because obviously we're seeing double and triple and all sorts of different entendres here that the words may not translate over well into English. So it does just make me wonder when I see a lot of repetition like that. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and out with pitch. I'm going to link down a video below that was actually fascinating to see. It was how pitch was made in between these wooden slats. So the gaps of ships specifically would have this pitch filled in, and then how they would go over it with tar. Give that a quick look. It's a YouTube short. It's pretty fascinating. I have determined to make an end of all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and out with pitch. Verse 15, this is how you are to make it. The length of the ark, 300 cubits. Its breadth, 50 cubits, and its height, 30 cubits. Make a roof for the ark and finish it to a cubit above, and set the door of the ark in its side. Make it with lower, second, and third decks. Just pausing there for the gopher wood commentary. It's saying probably cedar of cypress trees, abundant in the mountains of Armenia. Pitch was a resin substance to seal seams and cracks in the wood. Going on to the dimensions. So the ark was not designed for beauty or speed. These dimensions provided extraordinary stability in the tumultuous flood waters. A cubit was about 18 inches long, so a ruler plus 6 inches, making the ark 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, 45 feet high. A gigantic box of that size would be very stable in the water, impossible to capsize. The volume of space in the ark was 1.4 million cubic feet, equal to the capacity of 522 standard railroad boxcars, which could carry 125,000 sheep. It had 3 stories, each 15 feet high. Each deck was equipped with various rooms or nests. The roof may have actually been a low wall around the flat roof to catch waterfall in the ark. There's a lot of numbers in the commentary, and I'm going to be honest, I just kind of checked out. I am not a numbers guy. If by any means you are, I would encourage you to pick up a copy of the commentary and read a lot more of those numbers, because it gets very Sally has 5 apples and Bethany wants 3. How many does Sally have left afterwards? Just kind of math word problems. And I am not a fan at all by that. It helps give overall perspective, though, towards God's creation, that he is instructing Noah, saying, build this and build it to this specification. So I think it's fascinating when you're given the context, but you're not given necessarily. I mean, I don't need to know how many railroad cars and how many sheep would fit in it. I mean, it's good to know. Hey, it's 15 feet high. Like that helps me kind of evaluate. Oh, how high each story up it is, but just kind of a bit much. Going back to the text at hand, verse 17, for behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, in which is the breath of life under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall die, but I will establish my covenant with you. Commentary talks about it as the first time the word covenant or promise is used in the Bible. So I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall come into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. So yes, there's destruction at hand, but he's saying, hey, I am promising I will keep you. I will establish my oath to protect you with you. They do talk about how that is further discussed in chapter 9, verses 9 through 17. Verse 19, specifically of chapter 6. And of every living thing of all flesh, you shall bring 2 of every sort into the ark to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female. Of the birds according to their kinds, and of the animals according to their kinds, of every creeping thing of the ground according to its kind, 2 of every sort shall come in to you to keep them alive. Also take up with you every sort of food that is eaten and store it up. It shall serve as food for you and for them. Noah did this, and he did all that God had commanded him. So, really interesting how that kind of doesn't give some of the further context that Jasher does. I'll make a mention that chapter 6 of the book of Jasher specifically talks about in verse 2 here, and thou shalt go and seat thyself by the doors of the ark, and all the beasts, the animals, and the fowls shall assemble and place themselves before thee, and such of them as shall come and crouch before thee shalt thou take and deliver into the hands of thy sons, who shall bring them to the ark, and all that will stand before thee thou shalt leave. So ones that are standing before the ark don't have anything to do with them. Ones that crouch before the ark, go ahead and take them. Verse 3 of Jasher, chapter 6. And the Lord brought this about on the next day, and animals, beasts, and fowls came in great multitudes and surrounded the ark. And Noah went and seated himself by the door of the ark, and of all flesh that crouched before him he brought into the ark, and all that stood before him he left upon the earth. Now, there's a brief mention in verse 5, kind of about 2 whelps. Noah sees this, and it says in verse 7, it says, and wondered greatly. So I think that what's fascinating about the book of Jasher right there, God is literally equipping Noah and saying, hey, I want you to preserve the animals as well. I want you to not only coat this ark with pitch, but I want you to make sure that you have all the food available for them. I want the ark to be able to collect water. Like, God is clearly providing. And that's why I like that element of the book of Jasher, because it's just giving further context. I am not scholarly, biblically enough sound to say, hey, this should be excluded. Maybe there are some things later. I haven't really come across it. I think I'm on chapter 8 or chapter 9 currently right now. Maybe there might be something later that does kind of strike a chord like, hey, that shouldn't be included. That's just a little bit crazy. But yeah, that's chapter 6. This is chapter 7. Then the Lord said to Noah, go into the ark, you and all your household, for I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of all clean animals, the male and his mate, and a pair of animals that are not clean, the male and his mate, and 7 pairs of the birds of the heavens also, male and female, to keep their offspring alive on the face of all the earth. For in 7 days I will send rain on the earth, 40 days and 40 nights. Interesting call out on the commentary. God allowed 1 more week for sinners to repent. There was still time. Going back to verse 4, for in 7 days will send rain on the earth, 40 days and 40 nights, and every living thing that I have made I will blot out from the face of the ground. And Noah did all that the Lord had commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters came upon the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him went into the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Of clean animals and of animals that are not clean, and of birds and of everything that creeps on the ground, 2 and 2, male and female, went into the ark with Noah as God had commanded Noah. And on 7 days the waters of the flood came upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, the commentary estimates it was May time frame, but they also say there's no definitive known calendar time frame. So cool that you think it's May. Kind of interesting, but kind of still definitively unknown. On that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened, and rain fell upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On the very same day, Noah and his sons, Shem and Ham and Japheth, and Noah's wife and the 3 wives of his sons with them entered the ark, they and every beast according to its kind, and all the livestock according to their kinds, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind, every winged creature. They went into the ark with Noah, 2 and 2 of all flesh, in which there was the breath of life. And those that entered, male and female of all flesh, went in as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. Kind of cool to think that God's the one closing the door, saying, all right, this is a new chapter to life. On the commentary here, the windows of the heavens. The celestial waters in the canopy encircling the globe were dumped on the earth and joined with the terrestrial and subterranean waters. This ended the water canopy surrounding the earth and unleashed the water in the earth. Together, these phenomena began the new system of hydrology that has since characterized the earth. The sequence in this verse indicates that the earth's crust breaks up first, then the heavens drop their water. Is interesting because the volcanic explosions that would have occurred when the earth fractured would have sent magma and dust into the atmosphere along with gigantic sprays of water, gas, and air, all penetrating the canopy and triggering its downpour. Going on to verse 17, I'm going to be wrapping up with the remaining of the verses, goes to 24. The flood continued 40 days on the earth. The waters increased and bore up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. The waters prevailed and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the waters. And the waters prevailed so mightily on the earth that all the high mountains under the whole heaven were covered. The waters prevailed above the mountains, covering them 15 cubits deep. They estimate that the cubits is about 22.5 feet in the commentary. Verse 21, and all flesh died that moved on the earth, birds, livestock, beasts, all swarming creatures that swarm on the earth, and all mankind. Everything on the dry land in whose nostrils was the breath of life died. He blotted out every living thing that was on the face of the ground, man and animals, creeping things, and birds of the heavens. They were blotted out from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those who were with him in the ark, and the waters prevailed on earth 150 days. They go over 150 days. That's verse 24. This is the commentary on it. These days include the 40 days and 40 nights period of rain. The flood arose to its peak, took over 2.5 months before the water receded to reveal their mountain peaks, over 4.5 months before the dove could find dry lands, and almost 8 months before the occupants could leave the ark, which is verse 14. Let's see how much longer that is. Not terribly long. But God remembered Noah, this is chapter 8, and all the beasts and all the livestock that were with him in the ark. And God made a wind blow over the earth, and the waters subsided. The fountains of the deep and the windows of the heavens were closed, and the rain from the heavens was restrained, and the waters receded from the earth continually. At the end of 150 days, the waters had abated, and in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. And the waters continued to abate until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, the tops of the mountains were seen. At the end of 40 days, Noah opened the window of the ark that he had made and sent forth a raven. It went to and fro until the waters were dried up from the earth. Then he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters had subsided from the face of the ground. But the dove found no place to set her foot, and she returned him to the ark, for the waters were still on the face of the whole earth. So he put out his hand and took her and brought her into the ark with him. He waited another 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came back to him in the evening, and behold, in her mouth was a freshly plucked olive leaf. So Noah knew that the waters had subsided from the earth. Then he waited another 7 days and sent forth the dove, and she did not return to him any more. In the 601st year, in the 1st month and the 1st day of the month, the waters were dried from off the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. In the 2nd month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth had dried out. Then God said to Noah, go out from the ark, you and your wife and your sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing that is with you, of all flesh, birds and animals, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, so that you may swarm on the earth and be fruitful and multiply on that earth. So that same commandment that was given to Adam and Eve is being given here to Noah, and that covenant that God is establishing with him. Verse 18, so Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every bird, everything that moves on the earth went out by families from the ark. This is where we're ending. It is a total of 3 verses. God's covenant with Noah. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took some of every clean animal and some of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And when the Lord smelled the pleasing aroma, the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the intention of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I ever strike down every living creature as I have done while the earth remains. Seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. This is where we get this element of the rainbow of God's promise that's about to be revealed in chapter 9. Spoiler. But I'm going to stop there. I will leave that out for next time as far as the next video. But appreciate you ultimately listening to this. I would highly encourage, if you are looking for the flood chronology, there is a little bit that they have there in the commentary, and they also have the major mountains of the Bible, Mount Ebal, Mount Sinai, Mount Ararat, and they actually go over all these different things. Mount Zion, really cool to kind of have that extra commentary in there. But I think that I'm going to leave that for people that are very curious to learn more of that, because some of the mountains even mentioned there, they're in other books of the Bible. But very cool to see this play out and reading it. The commentary on 17, just before I wrap up, in the process of replenishing the creation order that he had judged with destruction, God repeated the words of the blessing that he had upon non-human creatures. Noah faced a new world where longevity of life began to decline immediately. Theirs was subject to storms, severe weather, blazing heat, freezing cold, seismic action, and natural disasters. It's a different world now. So, all that being said, hopefully you are making the most out of what you are seeing of the world on your end. Have a God-blessed week. Take care, and thanks for your time.